Welcome to Sound Bites from Home, a visual podcast featuring students from the Department of Performing Arts at American University. I'm your host, Andrew Brown, and today's guest is Gabriel Simerson, a pianist, organist, and a political studies student at American University. Gabe, welcome to Sound Bites from Home. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you very much.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, your quick bio.
Quick bio. I'm actually a very late arrival to being a music major, but music has been happening for literally my entire life. I love to say that I was on stage before I was born, because I was raised by a violinist who was raised by a big band and dance band, wind player, and so music was always happening. But you know, I was always told, whatever you do, don't study music, don't major in music. Just like, you know, every lawyer I know says to me, whatever you do, don't go to law school, don't do it. So I didn't. And I was a political science major for about 3.5 years in undergrad. I'm a super senior now, you would say. And the Department of Performing Arts at AU was very generous in finding out a way to mastermind a plan to get another bachelor's in music with one extra semester. So that's what I'm working on at the moment.
That's a very interesting story. Like, that's a lot to unpack. I do want to ask you, though, you say, you know, your first experience on stage was before you were even born. Tell me about that.
My mother was playing a production of Showboat, I think it was, in New Haven, which is where I was born. There's actually still a black blanket in our house that she bought at that time to cover her stomach, you know, so that like my ears wouldn't get blown out. I mean, who knows how well that worked, you know, but I was there on stage in some form. And, you know, there has never been a time in my life where I wasn't hearing music just in, you know, the next room over.
Tell me a little bit about your organ experience at American University.
Well, I'd say it's relatively, well, it is simply unique, if for no other reason that I'm the only organ student at AU. So it is the definition of unique, because I am the organ experience at American University. And we're very lucky that in Katzen there is an organ studio with a pretty substantial Moeller organ that was moved into the building from its previous home. And so I'm spoiled, really, that I have a studio with an organ that I can go to that nobody else is using. And AU was also very, very helpful in that when I got to AU, there was no organ faculty at all. The organ was just kind of sitting there. We knew it was there. Nobody had gone in there for a while. There was a harpsichord that was sort of chilling in there, you know. But a local organist who I'd sung for several years, Jeffrey Smith, who's the director of music at St. Paul's K Street, musician with a serious international reputation, and who I respect a lot. AU actually hired him as an adjunct so that I could take lessons for credit for my degree program. And so that was I was really lucky that we were able to do that, we could integrate everything into the system.
So American University was able to set you up with this, very world-renowned organist to make sure you get a one-on-one experience.
Well, yeah, I've known him for several years, and I said to AU, I would love to study with this guy.
And AU made it happen.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, the Department of Performing Arts at AU, and I've said this in other media, and it's still true, and I'm going to say it wherever I can because it needs to be heard. You think of AU as kind of, the poli-sci kid school. It's like every white dude named Matt who's a hill turn is like, nothing against Matts. I love Matts.
Nothing against Matts here.
Yeah, but it's an image. And when you think of AU, when you look at most of the marketing material, when you look at, the stats on the sides of the buses, there's an image, and AU does that very well. Mm-hmm. But there's also the performing arts across the street. Yeah. They exist. But the department is really the kind of very tight-knit, very dedicated, very personal operation that, I hadn't really seen since I went to an independent school up in Connecticut. These are people who know everybody's names. Mm. They will fight for you, whether it's finding money to make things happen or whether it's, working around credit things. If you want to do something, they will find a way to make it happen.
Can you talk about some of the most memorable moments you had with the DPA?
Well, my most involvement in the arts at AU has been with the AU Chamber Singers. Mm. I've been with them since I was a freshman, and we've had several really, really wonderful experiences, especially on tour. I remember, there are so many stories on tour, and, there are the sort of stock stories that you can tell about being in, experiencing the culture and meeting people in other places. But there were some pretty significant things that we were able to do here too. Like last year, maybe one of the most memorable moments was when the chamber singers and some instrumentalists gave the Mid-Atlantic premiere of Craig Hella Johnson's Considering Matthew Shepard.
Oh, I love that work.
It's fantastic. It's big and it's deep, and there's a lot happening, and there's a lot to to process, not only when you're watching it, but when you're learning it. Especially, and there's some very incendiary language in there, and for good reason. But there are entire movements that have homophobic slurs really strongly written in a choral context, and we had to figure out as a group how we were going to plan navigating this material while still, but you can't avoid it at the same time. And so the process of learning a work like that was so rooted in a collective trauma, really, I think, brought out the best in everybody in the group. because we realized we had to work in a very sensitive, sensitive to everybody in the room, sensitive to our audience, sensitive to, we had to be our best. We always say we have to be our best, but in this case, we were really forced to be our best, and we were, I think.
Final question I do want to ask you. So if you, as a student who was political science and then went to Oregon, if you knew of another student who was a little nervous about, say taking lessons at American University's Department of Performing Arts, or just was unsure of, how to navigate it, what kind of advice would you give that student?
I would tell them that I absolutely understand being intimidated. There are some very beloved members of the faculty in the DPA who scared the crap out of me at first. But
any music school.
I realized very quickly that if you show that you are interested in something and that you have the inspiration to do it, that's what they look for, and they will grab right onto that. And, my story is a testament that, after 4 years of hanging around and doing music, but not, showing any real evidence that I could actually be doing this as a study, I finally just said, you know what, maybe I will. Yes, I will. I made the decision, and I showed them that I was ready to do it, and they just brought me where I needed to be. If you've got it, and that it is the desire, they'll see it, and they will do it. Help you do it.
So you really have to hold on to that it, but they'll really encourage you to follow it. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
It's a special place.
Well, I think that's a perfect note to end on. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. Really appreciate it.
Of course, thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun.